What is up, you guys? This is Dr. D, your college doc, and we're going to talk about muscle building, exercise, nutrition, and breathing. So here we go. So the first thing we want to do is work out when we're not hungry. So we need to snack like 2 or 3 hours before, or wake up, do a little bit, and then go exercise. So, alright, so these are the types of exercises that we want to do. So we want to stick with the moderate and high intensity exercises. So moderate is when we're pretty challenged, but we're not overexerting ourselves. And high intensity is when we're exerting ourselves, like so we're running as fast as we can, we're lifting as much as we can, and we want to be careful with high intensity. So with moderate intensity, we are increasing our capacity, we're oxidizing, we're breaking down the most fat. So there's this curve that looks like this, and the more that we work out in moderate intensity, the more it's oxidized. But that moment that we reach the high intensity exercise, the less fat we're going to be burning. So that means when we're working out and we have a little bit of like weight to lose, we want to lose more weight, I guess, lose more fat, I guess. Shit, I said I guess like 3 times. So when we're at high intensity, we're going to be using our sugar and glycogen storage in our body. So next, we're going to talk about high intensity. So doctors and studies from around the world are saying that when you work out for high intensity intervals, so when you're working out and you can't really carry out a conversation, you're just focused on breathing and doing the exercise. So when we're running really fast, as fast as we can, maybe a little bit underneath that limit, we are our greatest limits. We are increasing our capacity to take in oxygen, to use our mitochondria and our energy systems for energy in the absence of oxygen, and we're increasing our tidal volume and our stroke volume so where our heart is working better when we're doing high intensity, our breathing systems are more efficient, so we can take in more oxygen when we breathe in, and we're better able to bring oxygen to our cells and to our muscle tissue. So when we're working out in moderate intensity intervals, which we want to do about 20 to 30 minutes a day, we are increasing our fat oxidation, and this is so using our fat as energy. It seems to be one of the prominent methods of energy for top athletes and for like Olympic athletes, because we see them like swimming for like long distances and at high speeds. But the thing with them, with going for long speeds but also having that increased speed, the thing is when we're doing high intensity training, we are actually increasing our capacity, our moderate intensity capacity. So before, maybe let's say we're going at 7 miles an hour on a treadmill, and that's our highest capacity. Maybe that'll be our highest capacity for the first 2 weeks, but when we keep exercising, the more frequently we exercise, the more capacity we have. So that 7 miles an hour will now be our moderate intensity, and instead our 9 miles an hour will be our high intensity. Maybe it's 8, I don't know, it depends. So by increasingly incorporating high intensity interval or intermittent training into our into our regimen, workout regimen. We're increasing our capacity to breathe, to use oxygen in our cardiovascular systems, and we're increasing our capacity to do work with less fatigue. So by doing this, we're increasing our physical fitness, and so we can do a lot more in a day with less fatigue. So for example, I can run miles a day and while I'm running not feel fatigued, unless I'm doing high intensity, in which case you do feel fatigued. and so there's this also other concept that we need to understand, which is how exercise influences our immune system. So by exercising, we are increasing our efficiency of bringing in oxygen, and we're decreasing our blood pressure, and therefore decreasing our stress. We're increasing our well-being, so we can be calmer and more in previously stressful situations, possibly feel more comfortable right now. And so by having all these benefits, we will get sick less, and we'll be able to do more. And so I don't know if you've ever heard of, but marathon trainers sometimes, or most often, not sure, but I've heard of marathon trainers, after they do the marathon, they might get sick for a day or two. And that's because when you're doing it for long periods of time, your immune system will be stressed, and your body will be stressed. So unless you have been training for high intensity, and that 26 miles is not that bad because you've been building up your capacity essentially. But otherwise, when you just do 20 to 30 minutes a day, like with what I'm saying, to just do less than 7 minutes of high intensity a day and less than 30 minutes of moderate intensity a day, will actually be decreasing our rates of infection. Bacterial, viral, I'm going to even put in cancer in there, so we're going to decrease our risks of getting all sorts of diseases. So now we'll be at optimal health, and we'll be more able to focus on what we want to do with our lives and achieve our goals and our dreams and our themes that we want to incorporate into our lives. We'll be more able to do the hobbies that we have, or to stay in the lab for longer periods of time if you're a chemist, or stay in the operating room if you're a surgeon, or I don't know, design or engineer products for longer periods of time, because you'll just be so efficient at breathing and at getting oxygen to your brain, which is pretty amazing. So heck, your grades will probably increase, your stress levels will decrease, so you'll be doing better on tests. So this is really important stuff, Alright, so we've done our exercise, we've done the high intensity, we've done the moderate intensity, and now it's time to eat. Woo! Favorite time of the day, right? So after we exercise, we must eat, and if you're vegan, you gotta eat a little bit more, and that's alright because it tastes great. So we want to eat a lot of carbohydrates. So we want to think of complex carbohydrates, not like bread and stuff. Nah, we gotta have vegetables, we've gotta have fruit, we've gotta have some way of getting energy into our bodies, and also to replenish our glycogen storage. When we're doing high intensity, we're not using our fat, remember, we're using our carbohydrates. So we need to get our carbohydrates back into our body. So for me, that's spinach, that's oats, that's sunflower seeds. But it's interesting because when you go into seeds and nuts, it's not only carbohydrates, but it's also a lot of protein. And so carbohydrates, yes, we're going to need approximately 7 grams of carbohydrates at least. But the levels of carbohydrates and protein that we get after workout is directly proportional to how much intensity you do in your workout, and how much you're lifting, how much you're running, how fast you're going. It's all proportional. So if you're at the beginnings of your workout regimen in after like maybe you were like not working out so much before, now the minimum is 7 grams carbohydrates, and protein minimum is 10 grams of protein. And for me, that's sunflower seeds, oats, and nuts, and tofu. I love tofu, and yeah, those are the main ones for me. And then you can get it from our green leafy vegetables, like have a ton of spinach and broccoli. I love all that stuff. And oh my gosh, I love coconut. If you can get your hands on coconut, eat that up. And there's a little bit in fruits, but it's not like too substantial, not really. So nuts and seeds. And so we want to eat these carbohydrates and proteins and get the early provision. So we need to eat as early as possible after our workout. And so we'll be replenishing our glycogen storages and our sugar, carbohydrates, all the same thing, roughly. And by getting the protein afterwards, we'll be increasing our ability to synthesize the muscle. So while we're working out, we're breaking down our muscle, but then afterwards we're eating, so we're going to be building up that muscle. It's muscle synthesis. And so when we're exercising and we're eating, we need to eat enough in order to have a larger and faster rate of muscle synthesis in relative to muscle breakdown. So by breaking down our muscles, right, or by ripping it, or I'm not sure, during our workout, we need to replenish our protein in our body so that we can build it up again. And so this is what athletes do. It's sort of like this compounding muscle building. So you rip, you build, you rip, you build, but you're building more than you rip, so it's good. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for this video. One more thing actually, we need to make sure that we're breathing enough, because I find that a lot of people are just like running and they're working out, but they're holding their breath. They're just like, and then they start to get really tired. And you want to know why? Because there's aerobic and there's anaerobic respiration, cellular respiration in our body. So aerobic, we're producing tons of more ATP than anaerobic.